So all of us need to make sense out of our own families of origin. We've got to make that part of our own coherent narratives. Some of you might be like me. Boy, I had to learn how to break multi-generations of dysfunction, of abuse taking place in my own family. Some of you had terrific dads and moms, and you ought to be incredibly thankful for that. But all of us got to do our own work. We've got to understand how we've been impacted by this culture and how we've been impacted by the way we've been nurtured as well. So if those are the lies of masculinity, then what does it mean to be a man? That slide should say femininity and masculinity. I think there are only two criteria that define what it means to be a man, and there's only two criteria that define what it means to be a woman. And to me, they're both the same, because it really defines our common humanity as men and women. Now, I was in my 6th year of professional football. My mother and grandmother raised 4 children in Buffalo, New York. I have a brother, 2 sisters, and a brother 10 years younger than me. Not having a father in the house, I raised my brother not only as my sibling, but really as a son. When he was 5, I was 15, somebody to be reckoned with in our neighborhood. And I taught my brother what I knew about being a man. Athletic ability, sexual conquest, and the way out of our neighborhood to the money was through sports. So he grew up with the same pathological drive I had, trying to validate his personhood and his manhood based on athletic performance. He had just graduated from high school, national recruit or big recruit in football, and getting ready for his freshman year of high school. He just graduated from Fork Union Military Academy, trying to figure all that out in the summer before his freshman year of college. I got him a job in training camp with the Colts. I wanted him to come in and learn the work ethic of a professional athlete, the skills and techniques of a defensive lineman. The very first week of training camp, I'm sitting on a taping table getting my ankles taped for an afternoon practice. Middle of July, my brother walked up to me with this massive black and blue mark on his chest. Our trainer saw that, sent him to the doctors for a blood test. That night I got a call from Johns Hopkins Hospital. Bring your brother there right away. And upon admitting him in the hospital, a doctor pulled me aside and said, listen, Billy's got cancer, and it's a type of cancer where there's virtually nothing we can do for him. And I remembered being absolutely devastated. Devastated, one, by the thought of losing the person that I probably loved the most in this entire world. But I think I was equally devastated by the reality. My 19-year-old brother is lying on his deathbed, tears in his eyes as he faced his own mortality. And I recognized at that moment that everything I had invested my life in, all of my accomplishments, my awards, my achievements, offered him no hope or help whatsoever. I was a socialized male that had separated my heart from my head at a very early age. And all I had was these old locker room speeches. Suck it up, no pain, no gain, we'll get through this thing together. So I had a cot put in next to his bed, not knowing what to do. And I literally slept there just about every night of an NFL season except for away games. So I'd get up in the morning, have breakfast with my brother, go to practice, come back, have dinner with him, and try to help him make it through the night. 5 months I spent on a pediatric oncology floor. 5 months in a waiting room with all these other families that had children facing life-threatening illnesses. And if you ever want to know where truth and perspective and authentic community resides in America, it's in those waiting rooms. Because when someone you love gets diagnosed, you suddenly get a clear perspective about what's really important in life, what you really want for the people you love and you care about. And you see, perhaps for the first time, all these secondary issues that create so much angst and anxiety in our lives, and they matter for absolute nothing. You had this tremendous sense of community, because when you landed on that floor, you recognized it wasn't just about my child. It was about every child on that floor. And when good news walked in that waiting room, some child's white cell count went up 10 points, some bone marrow match was made, everybody celebrated that. And when devastating news and death walked in that room, everybody tried to dissipate that as well. 5 months I was there. It was a week of the last game of the season. My brother was down to his last day or two on this earth. I made a decision to take him out of that hospital to my home in Baltimore so that he could die in the presence of the people that had loved and nurtured him. And I'll never forget wheeling him out of Hopkins Hospital knowing he was going to almost instant death. I drove over to the stadium where my teammates were. And they came out and they lifted this defensive lineman, maybe 105, 110 pounds, carried him into the locker room, put him on one of the bleachers. I undressed him. We put him in a whirlpool. And as he sat there soothing his aching body, one at a time, my teammates came up to him in a clandestine way, said goodbye. Took him home that night, had his dog, had his friends come down from Buffalo, celebrated this early Christmas, only to watch him die the next morning. 5 months to prepare for his death, but the reality and finality was devastating to me. Took his body, flew it back up to Buffalo. My coaches and teammates came. My cousin played with the Bills. Our organization showed up, and the turning point of my life, I'm standing in the middle of Buffalo in the middle of December. The snow's coming down. I'm standing next to the casket, next to the open grave. Hundreds of people out here for this young boy. And when I hear the priest say the last amen, everybody turned and just started to walk away. And I remembered wanting to scream. You mean this is it? You live, you have some good times, you die, and then everybody gets on with the busyness of their own life? What's the meaning of life? Where does value and purpose come from? I was 29 years old. I was 6 years in the league. I hit the long ball in that boy code athletically, sexually, economically, and I had no concept. No concept what life was about and no concept what I was about. And I started this long inward journey trying to find the answers to life's most profound questions. And ultimately my question became, what does it mean to be a man, to be a woman, to be a human being? My conclusion is this. It comes down to two things and two things alone. Now I know this not only from my own personal journey in life, but I've been in pastoral ministry over 30 years now. Preached at a multi-thousand church. And in my faith tradition, part of my job is to sit on the deathbed of dying people and help prepare them for the next stage of life, if you will. And here's what I know to be true for me, and I know to be true for every single one of you. If you were on your deathbed today, knowing that you were going to die tomorrow, you wanted to measure what kind of man, what kind of woman you were, what kind of success you had in life, it'd come down to two things and two things alone. And the first is this. On that deathbed, you recognize that all of life is about relationships. It's about the capacity to love and to be loved. What's it mean to be a man? It means you can look somebody in the eye and say, I love you, and receive that love back. You know what the questions you're all going to ask at the end of your life? Not going to be about how much you accumulated. It's not going to be about how much you achieved, any of that kind of stuff. It's all going to be questions of relationships. What kind of mother was I? What kind of father? What kind of husband? What kind of wife? What kind of partner? What kind of son? What kind of daughter? What kind of teammate was I? Who did I love and who did I allow to love me? It's all about relationships. Now think about that for a moment, particularly the men in here. I'm not sure there's a man in this room that was raised to be relationally successful. All of us were taught how to compare and compete on that playground with all the wrong definitions of competition. You know what happens on that playground? 8, 9-year-old boys already mandated to be a man, already beginning the socialization process. We start policing each other on that playground. And we want to find that one boy that's just a little too outside the man box, cries just a little too easy, a little too sensitive, a little too emotional. And all of us go up and we gang up on that boy and we tell that boy to stop with the steroids. Stop acting that way. Be a man. And then as 8, 9-year-old boys, we walk away from that experience thinking, my goodness, I hope that never happens to me. And we start conforming to this construct. We start projecting this false machismo in order to defend and deflect any questions about our own life. Now you think what would happen in Richmond. You think what would happen in America if we ever raised up a generation of men and women that self-defined based on their heart, their capacity to love and be loved. It's the heart that allows you to build relationship. It's the heart that gives you empathy and sympathy. It's the heart that's the source of all values in life. As coaches, boy, what we need to be doing is coaching the heart. It's the heart of every young man, every young woman that needs to be kept open. It's the heart that's got to be developed. It's the heart that's going to be the biggest predictor of where you go in life. It's all about relationship. Now here's the second thing. And again, I think it's the only other thing. You're on your deathbed today knowing you're going to die tomorrow. measure what kind of man, what kind of woman, what kind of success you had in life, it'd come down to this. At the end of your life, you want to be able to look back over and know that you made a difference. You left some kind of mark, some kind of imprint, not that you were just here, but you made a difference. All of us have a responsibility to identify with some kind of cause bigger than who and what we are. All of us have a responsibility to give back, to make the world more fair, more just, more hospitable. Now, we don't need to be King, or we don't need to be Mandela, we don't need to be Gandhi. Every act of kindness is a step toward justice. All of us have the opportunity to make sure that in America, every man, woman, and child is valued for their dignity, their value, their worth. That's the responsibility of every human being. All of us got to identify our own personal cause. Relationships, commitment to a cause. So think about it, what's a team? A team is nothing more than a set of relationships for a cause. Every team has common purpose. You got performance goals and objectives. There's a mutually accountable work ethic. But every team is built around the trust, the respect, the integrity, and the dignity of every team member. Boy, that creates this spirituality of team. Called flow, it's called many things. But it's when you transcend self. And every great team I've ever been on, every great team I've ever coached has been great for two reasons. One, the players are relationally connected. Boy, they depend on and be dependable for. The second thing is that every player makes a commitment to bring their heart, their mind, their body to the cause of the team. Boy, if a team is a set of relationships for a cause, then it ought to be the ideal place to help boys become men and girls become women. And once we redeem sports from this win-at-all-cost mentality, boy, we can start building men and women of great moral, social, emotional development and contributions to our society.